Coming up, we meet two of Unity's new Earth Ambassadors. A new series from Underscore News shares how Indigenous nations are rebuilding traditional food systems. Plus, John Tahsuda weighs in on the federal Indian law cases before the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 Indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of Indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class Indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
Hopa. Thank you for joining us. We start today in Washington, D.C., where the U.S. Supreme Court has heard another case involving federal Indian law. The High Court heard oral arguments on Monday in the case Lac du Flambeau Band versus Coughlin. The case underway has implications for tribal economic development and sovereignty. It involves a man named Brian Coughlin who took out a payday loan from Lendgreen, which is a tribally owned subsidiary of the Lac du Flambeau Band. Coughlin later filed for bankruptcy. As part of the action, he sued the tribe to enforce a stay on his bankruptcy and for money damages. The U.S. Constitution gives Congress the authority to enact laws on the subject of bankruptcy for the country. The question now before the U.S. Supreme Court is whether Congress removed the tribe's immunity from suit in the bankruptcy context. Whichever way the court rules, it will have implications for how tribes and wholly owned tribal subsidiaries conduct themselves in the bankruptcy context. This promises to be a significant term as we also await decisions on cases involving the Indian Child Welfare Act and water rights for the Navajo Nation. We can expect to hear a decision on this case in the next few months. The latest buzz in the literary sphere is the Indian Girls Book Club. ICT's Mackenzie Allen Charmley has more from its launch that happened this weekend in Phoenix, Arizona.
Indigenous girls, books, and community. That's the mission of the newly launched organization called the Indian Girls Book Club. Founded by Navajo poet Kinsale Drake, the book club provides free literary services from free books to writing workshops. Their launch event at Palabras Bilingual Bookstore included vendors, performances, and book signings from Indigenous authors. For one vendor, the event meant empowerment.
The main point of our brand is to uplift Native American women and empower Native American women, and I just think that that goes so well in hand with this event. So yeah, I mean, it's just really, really special, and as Native American women, we could do whatever we want, and it's just really amazing to see Kinsale put this event together.
From Indigenous authors to Indigenous creatives, Indian Girls Book Club is an organization that fosters community.
Events like this are really, really important. Youth-focused events especially. For myself growing up, and I hear it all the time in the store, it actually moves people emotionally to be able to see themselves represented in a bookstore, which is not something that most people have grown up with.
Whether through books or laughs, gathering Indigenous people together guarantees happy faces.
I feel like it just centers the joy of our youth and of our women and girls. And when you think about what's happening in our communities, like the outside world likes focusing on the negative, but these type of events show that Native people have always been building resiliency, and my friend Kinsale has always been putting in that work, but especially in the literature world.
In Phoenix, Arizona, Mackenzie Allen Charmley, ICT News.
In Rhode Island, two bills are being discussed at the State House that could grant recognition for tribal nations. One of the bills would give the Seekonk-Wampanoag tribe state recognition. The other would establish a process for tribes to petition for state recognition. State Representative Camille Vella-Wilkinson, who authored the bills, says this could be a historic moment for the state. There is opposition, however, with the federally recognized Narragansett tribe, who is against both bills. The nation says the pieces of legislation create shortcuts for the recognition process. In its own history, the Narragansett tribe received federal recognition in 1983 after decades of documentation and review. Both bills are being held in the State Government and Elections Committee for further study. Moving to entertainment news, a popular Native American children's show has been renewed for an upcoming season. Season 2 of Spirit Rangers will continue following Cody, Summer, and Eddie, a group of Native siblings who go on adventures protecting their homeland. Although details of the new storyline have yet to be revealed, we know kids can look forward to meeting new characters like Blade the Dandelion Spirit. The first season of the show, created by Mexican and Chumash writer Carissa Valencia, premiered in 2022 on Indigenous Peoples Day. She spoke to ICT about her collaboration with Netflix.
Yeah, I think this has been a really exciting time because it is long overdue to see our stories. I think they were really excited about the idea that this is perfect for the preschool audience. It's basically like Grimm's fairy tales, but with a Native twist. And we have so many of our own stories like that.
The first season of Spirit Rangers featured a host of Native writers and voice actors. Netflix viewers from 180 countries will be able to see the premiere of the next season on May 8th. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. The United National Indian Tribal Youth Organization, also known as UNITY, has announced its new cohort of Earth Ambassadors. It is a leadership program that began in the 1990s to address environmental issues. Previous groups have tackled topics like recycling and conservation. Joining us today are two of the new members. Sareya Taylor is attending the Institute of American Indian Arts in New Mexico, and Anagali Duncan studies at Brown University in Rhode Island. Hello to you both.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
As part of this program, you will get the opportunity to raise awareness about environmental concerns with policymakers. What is the message that you are hoping to take to them? And Sareya, we'll start with you.
Okay. Hello. I'm really hoping to get across that Indigenous people have been here since the very beginning, and we know how to care for our lands. And we can do that with our traditional ecological knowledge, And I'm just really excited to work with all the other ambassadors and just push this forward.
And Anagali?
Oh, no, yeah, exactly what Sareya said. I just really want to push for our Indigenous ecological knowledge to be valued on the same scale that Western ecological knowledge is. And basically just see us as legitimate, because I know that we have stewarded these lands for so long and we have all this knowledge that will save the world.
Anagali, you will receive leadership training on being an Earth Ambassador during the National Unity Conference in late June. What are you hoping to gain from that?
I'm hoping to gain a good network of strong Indigenous youth that are willing to fight for their communities. That is one of my main goals, is just to get a good network of a lot of strong, resilient Indigenous youth, because we have so many strong, powerful words that we have to spread. So yeah.
What are you looking forward to, Sareya?
I'm really excited to get to know everybody. Obviously, I'm excited to go to Washington, but I do a lot of work within writing. Obviously, I go to IAI, which is just an art school, and I think it's really fun and something to be valued to have more creative minds within STEM fields. I feel like sometimes that's not always uplifted or heard. So I'm just really excited to see how I can work poetry into this.
That's a great segue into my next question for you, Sareya, which is what you study and what your interests are at IAIA.
I currently study creative writing. I'm working to get my BFA focusing in poetry. I also serve as the current Miss American Indian Higher Education Consortium, which is really cool, and it makes me feel like I can do a lot of different things. I do a lot of work with Intertribal Agriculture Council, and I also do obviously a lot of poetry. I like to write. I've also done work with Indian Girls Book Club, which was mentioned earlier. I also read at their event in Phoenix, which was really fun.
And Anagali, what do you study at Brown?
I am studying environmental science, organismal biology, and Native American studies. I'm really just trying to find the interconnection between all of these things. During the summer, I'm going to be doing research at Harvard University, where I'm working with the Nipmuc community, and we're looking at like how traditional, how traditional ways that the Nipmuc community has dealt with like stewarding the land and how that is more beneficial for the environment. Yeah.
Sareya, experts say that climate change will only get worse unless major changes can happen. How often do you think about climate change and its effects in your daily life?
I honestly think about it every day, but I think about it more in terms of climate hope. I really like to, trust and really just trust and put all my hope in that everything is going to be okay. I put a lot of trust in our traditional knowledge, and I know that it'll keep us safe and it'll lead our Earth into a safer area of being.
We just celebrated Earth Day last week. How do you think that we can move from making environmental justice something that we think about year round rather than just a single day? And Anagali, we'll go to you first.
I think understanding that we are so integral to the environment and how everything we do is interconnected within the environment, that is something that my community does on a daily basis, is like even just like going to water every morning and building that connection with the environment. That is like something that I do to like build my connection with the earth.
And Sareya, what are your thoughts?
I think that a vital part of it is including our youth, especially our young ones, even in school and just everyday life, incorporating more Indigenous foods into their diet and explaining where they came from and the history that it has for their peoples, and just, celebrating different things like recycling or composting more. I feel like little things can really make up a lot, even though I know sometimes it's really hard to look at those little things as celebratory.
We know that both of you are in college, but for youth who are even younger than you, maybe in high school, middle school, who are listening to this interview, what advice do you have for them to get involved in either unity or these kinds of, conversations in their own communities? And Sareya, we'll start with you.
I think my advice would be just to try new things. I had no interest in poetry, and my mom's the one that forced me to join the final youth council, which got me involved with Unity, and she forced me to just try new things. And honestly, I wouldn't be as happy as I am and more in tune with who I am without trying those new things.
Anagali, what about you?
I think understanding that these spaces are usually purposefully exclusionary of Indigenous voices, realizing that that is a fight that is willing to be made, especially with our youth, because we do have such strong, resilient voices. I keep saying that because it's so true. And like Sareya said, like just take on these challenges and fight for your communities.
Well, Sareya Taylor and Anagali Duncan, Unity's new Earth Ambassadors, thank you so much. Our friends at Underscore News have published a new series of stories called Flexing Food Sovereignty. The project is comprised of 7 stories and shares the way cultural knowledge and practices sustain Indigenous people through what we eat. Nicole Charley is the co-manager of the project and joins us now virtually from Washington State. Hi, Nicole.
Hello.
I want to start off with the first article in this series, which is actually about a personal story of yours. Tell us about your experience harvesting a doe.
Sure. Late last summer, I saw a Facebook post on a local Native community page on Facebook that an animal, a deer, was available. And I was excited because I don't have personal experience with with animal harvesting. Growing up, I was more trained in our foods with female energy as a traditional food gatherer. So our plants and our roots, our berries. And I commented on the post, I would love to take this animal, but I don't have anywhere to butcher or harvest the meat. And Portland area, Southwest Washington, has such a great Native community. Mutual friend responded and said, hey, I can help you out if you bring the animal to me, and I'll help you butcher and harvest. And so my sister and I responded to the post and said, yes, we'll take the animal, and connected with the person who made the post, and were able to take the doe. She was part of a herd in a really nice neighborhood, and she tried to jump a fence line and got caught up on her neck and bled out immediately. But her passing so quickly and that post being in the morning, we were able to get the animal and learned that day, with the help from a Nez Perce friend, how to butcher and harvest. And it was awesome. Our family was able to eat the meat throughout the fall and winter, and we still have a little bit of roast left. And it's so awesome to be able to taste home. Living a couple hours away, it's amazing. And we're raising 2 nephews, and for us to learn how to butcher and how to put up meat ourselves is great, to be able to share that with our kids.
You mentioned that you are a traditional foods gatherer. What does that mean in your community?
Sure. So growing up, we have longhouses in different districts in our home community of Warm Springs. And in my district, the North End, in my family, my grandmother was in the line. She was chosen, and out of her 6 daughters, they chose my mother. And out of my mother's daughters, I was chosen. And I have a couple of nieces I'm helping to bring up, and my sister has also joined the line. For us, being a traditional food gatherer is a lifelong commitment. It's a duty. It's an honor to help feed our people, and to gather and harvest with good feelings in our heart, and to go out there with good thoughts and prayers. And we help feed for all kinds of cultural protocol, name givings, ceremonies, feasts, and funerals. So it's work to put up food and to make sure it lasts throughout the year, to be able to take out when you need to be present for your people.
I want to move forward because the second story in this series is called How Indigenous Nations Are Rebuilding Food Systems, and it was written by Richard Walker. Part of the story talks about the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. Tell us about that.
Sure. So with the Grand Ronde tribe, they spoke with Francine Ambrose, and she runs a food program for the tribe, and also Cheryl Kennedy, the chairwoman for their tribe. And with different tribal nations, you have complex layers of how nations are, working to rebuild their food systems and be sovereign in how they choose to feed themselves. And with Grand Ronde, it's interesting and complex because in the state of Oregon and across the nation, there were tribes that were terminated in earlier years. And when they were reinstated, they have to navigate through different systems sometimes. And with Grand Ronde, they work really hard to have good relationships with the state of Oregon, where they can have harvesting for fish, for salmon, eel, and deer and elk, and having to navigate through their history to build a strong footing for their people. It's really awesome to see the work they're doing, and pulling from their memories of coming through the struggle of termination, and really using the resources they have now to help build up for their people is really awesome to see.
Nicole Charley, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The full series of Flexing Food Sovereignty can be found online at _news.com. We'll be right back. There are a number of federal Indian law cases in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. Besides the Indian Child Welfare Act on the line, water rights and sovereign immunity are as well. Here to comment on the implications is ICT regular contributor John Tahsuda. He is a principal with Navigators Global. Welcome back, John.
Thanks for having me again.
The case we heard earlier in our newscast called Black de Flambeau versus Coughlin questions whether the bankruptcy code is sufficiently clear to abrogate the sovereign immunity of federally recognized tribes. What exactly does that mean in layman's terms?
Academically, in a sense, we talk about the need to have very clear and specific language to abrogate tribal sovereign immunity. And that's in a lot of contexts. If a tribe is signing contracts, finance agreements, all the things that they sort of do now in our modern times, we expect to see clear language if the tribe is going to waive its sovereign immunity, sort of expressly stated in the document. Similarly, with legislation, the general rule is that when Congress is going to waive a tribe's sovereign immunity, it needs to specifically state that it's waiving it in very clear and express terms. Now, there's no magic words. Those of you that either listen to the court arguments, have seen some of the transcripts, there was some discussion about magic words. The court has made clear over the years, these questions of whether immunity was waived or not don't require specific words or magic words, but they do need to be very clear on what the intent of Congress was, and clear that intent is to waive the tribe's sovereign immunity or abrogate this inherent right that the tribe has.
For tribal leaders watching this interview who are maybe thinking, why should I pay attention to this case? What would you say to them?
Well, I think there's two reasons. One is sort of specific to this situation in the bankruptcy code. So in our modern times, tribes, as many other governments are, engage not in just purely government activities, but they have a hand in commercial activities, either directly or indirectly. And so where tribes more than ever are very intertwined with the local community, with the state and with the federal government, and with all the other businesses that we interact with in our communities. And so, these interactions require us to deal with sort of modern business relationships, transactions. Of course, bankruptcy is one of those. It's a right set out, as was noted earlier in the broadcast, in the U.S. Constitution, and it's a federal responsibility to take care of this ability to discharge your debts. Take a step way back. The reason we have that is because before that, people used to be thrown in jail for not being able to pay their debts. And so rather than have those draconian things, we have a process set up by the federal government whereby you can go into bankruptcy, discharge your debts, but it doesn't throw you in prison. You actually get to keep things like your house, et cetera, depending on the circumstances, so that it doesn't make you destitute as well. So this is important in that context because the bankruptcy code, the law set by Congress, talks a lot about, in various provisions, how it impacts governments. And it throws a very broad net. Again, if you listen to the court arguments, everybody agrees that the law throws a very broad net, but it doesn't specifically mention tribes, particularly in this provision that's being argued about. And so that's the root of that question, is whether or not this language used by Congress in the law is specific enough to include the tribes. So that's very specific to this case. It has a lot of implications for tribes doing business, and there's pros and cons on both sides. Tribes have argued pros and cons for a number of years about whether there would be advantages to being able to access bankruptcy provisions, such as local governments can do to take care of when they get in over their head in debt. And a lot of tribes are very concerned about that. And so, that's an unresolved question from the tribal perspective at this point. But this question also brings in this long-standing and, in recent years, very pressing question before the Supreme Court, which is, what is the extent really of tribal sovereignty? And this piece called, sovereign immunity, which really is about not being able to be sued in court or dragged into court. What are the extents, of this principle that we've had in place for a long time? There's been a number of cases before the Supreme Court in the last 20 years or so talking about what does this tribal immunity mean. So far, the court has always held a really high bar to say that tribes have sovereign immunity, and unless it is very expressly stated by Congress or very expressly stated in a private agreement like a contract. So there's an opportunity here for the court to chip away at that a little bit if it wants. The other side of this argument that I think there should be given some thought to by tribal leaders is we have often said that we want to be treated with equal respect as the federal government and state governments. Well, the bankruptcy code and lumping in all the governments that this provision applies to brings in the federal government and the state governments. And so, one fundamental question that tribal leaders need to ask themselves, I think, is, do we want to hold ourselves out when we've asked to be respected the same as those governments?
Well, ICT regular contributor John Tahsuda, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.